The message arrived on a Tuesday morning. Admiral James Wilson sat in his office at the United Earth Defense Headquarters, staring at the holographic projection floating above his desk. The alien text had already been translated by the AI systems, but he read it 3 times to be certain there was no misunderstanding. "They can't be serious," he muttered, running a hand through his salt and pepper hair. His aide, Lieutenant Mark Davis, stood rigidly at attention. "All verification protocols confirm it's genuine, sir. The Galactic Council sent this through official diplomatic channels." The message was simple. Earth had 30 standard days to reduce its military presence to acceptable levels, as defined by Galactic Council Resolution 5293. Those acceptable levels would effectively dismantle 90% of Earth's defense forces. James pressed a button on his desk. "Get me the president." Within hours, an emergency session of the United Earth Government convened. Representatives from all nations gathered in Geneva while military leaders and scientists joined virtually. President Eleanor Grant took her position at the center of the assembly. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, her voice steady despite the circumstances. 2 hours ago, Earth received an ultimatum from the Galactic Council. They demand we disarm, claiming our military buildup violates their regulations for developing spacefaring species. Dr. Anna Thompson, Earth's leading xenopolitical analyst, stepped forward. "Madam President, this doesn't make sense. When the Council made first contact 5 years ago, they provided us with a clear development path. We've followed every regulation to the letter." "Except one," General Robert Hayes interjected. "We didn't remain defenseless." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Since first contact with the Galactic Council, humanity had experienced a technological renaissance. The Council had welcomed Earth as a promising developing species, offering limited technology exchanges and inviting human observers to Council proceedings. They'd presented themselves as benevolent overseers, guiding younger races toward peaceful coexistence among the stars. But humanity had been cautious. While gratefully accepting the Council's gifts, Earth had quietly adapted the new technologies for defense. The bitter lessons of human history had taught them never to rely solely on the goodwill of others. "The timing is suspicious, Admiral," Wilson noted. "They issue this demand just as our new shielding systems come online." Dr. Thompson nodded. "And 3 weeks after our observers witnessed the Council's treatment of the Proxima Colony dispute." President Grant's expression darkened. "Where they allowed the Dortians to annex 3 Mendaxian worlds, because the Mendaxians had insufficient defensive capabilities." "Precisely," Dr. Thompson confirmed. "I believe our observers saw too much. The Council presents itself as a peaceful federation, but in reality, it's an empire," General Hayes finished. "One that ensures newer species remain vulnerable and dependent." President Grant surveyed the room. "Options?" Admiral Wilson straightened. "We can't possibly comply with their demands. Even if we wanted to, dismantling 90% of our defenses in 30 days is logistically impossible. And politically suicidal," added the Chinese representative. "No nation would agree to such terms." "What about negotiation?" suggested the Brazilian. "Ambassador, perhaps we can reach a compromise." Dr. Thompson shook her head. "The Council doesn't compromise with developing species. Their entire system is based on a hierarchy of technological advancement. In their view, we have no standing to negotiate terms." President Grant's eyes narrowed. "And if we refuse?" Admiral Wilson's face was grim. "According to our intelligence, the Council has never faced outright defiance from a developing world. But their enforcement protocols likely involve military intervention." "Can we win that fight?" President Grant asked bluntly. "Not conventionally," General Hayes admitted. "Their technology still outclasses ours by at least a century." A new voice spoke up from the back of the room. Dr. Thomas Reed, head of the Advanced Physics Division, rarely attended political meetings. His presence alone signaled the gravity of the situation. "Perhaps," Dr. Reed said quietly, "winning isn't about firepower." All eyes turned to him. "The Quantum Boundary Project," he continued. "It's ready for field implementation." Admiral Wilson stared at Reed. "That's a theoretical defense system. It's never been tested at scale." "It's our only option," Reed replied. "And it will work." President Grant studied the physicist carefully. "Explain it to them, Doctor." Reed stepped forward. and the course of human history changed forever. Dr. Reed activated his presentation, and a complex quantum model appeared above the conference table. The Quantum Boundary Project began as theoretical research into dimensional physics, he explained. When the Council provided us with their FTL mathematics, we noticed something they either missed or deliberately concealed. The holographic display shifted, showing layers of equations and spatial models. Their faster-than-light travel doesn't actually break the light-speed barrier. Rather, it exploits microscopic folds in space-time, what we call quantum boundaries. These boundaries exist at the edge of conventional space-time, allowing properly equipped vessels to slip between normal space. General Hayes frowned. We already know this. It's how their ships travel between star systems. Yes, Reed nodded. But what they didn't tell us is that these boundaries can be manipulated. More specifically, they can be reinforced. President Grant leaned forward. Reinforced how? Imagine space-time as a fabric, Reed explained. The Council's ships find naturally occurring loose threads and slip through them. What we've developed is, essentially, a way to sew those threads shut. Stunned silence filled the room. You're saying we can prevent their ships from entering our space? Admiral Wilson asked incredulously. Not just their ships, Reed clarified. Any ship using their FTL technology. We can create what amounts to a dimensional barrier around our entire solar system. Dr. Thompson's eyes widened. They'd be unable to reach us at all. Precisely, Reed confirmed. No conventional weapons could penetrate it because the barrier exists partially outside normal spacetime. It would effectively remove Earth from their reach. How quickly can this be deployed? President Grant asked. The prototypes are ready, Reed answered. We've been testing small-scale boundaries in the asteroid belt for months. Scaling up to system-wide would take approximately 3 weeks with current resources. Admiral Wilson's expression was skeptical. And power requirements? Significant, but manageable. We'd need to repurpose most of our fusion grid temporarily. General Hayes studied the technical readouts. What about our own ships? Would we be trapped in the solar system? Reed smiled slightly. No. The barrier is essentially one way. It prevents entry but allows exit because we'll control the quantum lock. Think of it as a door where we hold the only key. President Grant stood up, her decision made. Dr. Reed, you have full authorization. Admiral Wilson, provide whatever military support the project needs. General Hayes, prepare our defenses in case the Council arrives before the barrier is ready. She turned to address the entire assembly. We will send a diplomatic response to the Council, requesting clarification and additional time. This should delay any immediate action on their part. Dr. Thompson raised a hand. Madam President, when the barrier activates, it will be an unmistakable message to the Council. They'll interpret it as a direct challenge to their authority. Good, President Grant replied firmly. It's time they learned that humanity doesn't follow anyone's rules but our own. As the meeting adjourned, Admiral Wilson pulled Dr. Reed aside. Level with me, Thomas. Will this really work? Reed's expression was solemn. The science is sound, James. The question isn't whether we can create the barrier, but what happens after we do. What do you mean? The Council has existed for thousands of years, controlling the development of countless species. We're about to become the first civilization to completely reject their authority. They won't take that lightly. Wilson nodded, grimly. Then we'd better make sure our statement is unmistakable. Over the next 3 weeks, Earth became a hive of activity. The Quantum Boundary Project moved from theoretical research to the largest engineering project in human history. Massive emitter arrays were positioned throughout the solar system, carefully aligned with the natural quantum boundaries that surrounded it. Teams worked around the clock, racing against the Council's deadline. Military vessels were dispatched to the outer planets, establishing a defensive perimeter while the barrier was constructed. On day 29, with just hours remaining before the Council's deadline expired, Dr. Reed stood in the control center of the primary array, orbiting Earth's moon. President Grant, Admiral Wilson, and the other leaders watched from a secure bunker below Geneva. All systems are green, Reed reported. Quantum alignment is stable. We're ready to activate on your command. President Grant took a deep breath. Are there any council ships in the vicinity? 3 vessels approaching from the direction of Alpha Centauri, Admiral Wilson confirmed. Estimated arrival, 2 hours. The President nodded. Dr. Reed, activate the barrier. Reed initiated the sequence, commencing quantum boundary reinforcement in 3, 2, 1. Across the solar system, the massive arrays came to life, sending invisible waves of energy rippling through the quantum boundaries that surrounded Earth's star. For a brief moment, to sensitive instruments, the entire solar system seemed to shimmer. Then, everything appeared normal again. Barrier status? President Grant asked. Reed checked his readings and smiled. Quantum boundaries successfully reinforced. The barrier is active and stable. Earth had just drawn a line in the cosmos. The Council ships arrived exactly as predicted, dropping out of FTL at the edge of the solar system. 3 massive vessels, each dwarfing humanity's largest battlecruisers. Their sleek designs spoke of technology centuries beyond Earth's capabilities. Then they hit the barrier. In the Geneva Command Center, Admiral Wilson watched the sensor readings with barely contained satisfaction. They're attempting to proceed on conventional drives. Current speed, negligible, relative to solar system dimensions. At that rate, it would take them years to reach Earth, General Hayes noted. The main screen flickered to life as a communication request came through. President Grant straightened her uniform. Accept the transmission. The image of a humanoid alien appeared. High Counselor Tyran of the Galactic Council was tall and slender, with pale blue skin and large compound eyes. His ornate robes and elaborate headdress spoke of his elevated status. President Grant, he began, his translator converting his clicks and whistles into smooth English. What is the meaning of this obstruction? Our vessels are unable to proceed. The President's expression remained neutral. High Counselor, we received your ultimatum regarding our defensive capabilities. Consider this our response. Tyran's compound eyes flickered, a sign of agitation, according to Earth's xenobiologists. You've created some form of barrier. This technology is not consistent with your species' development level. Apparently, you underestimated us, Grant replied coolly. The barrier will remain in place until the Council withdraws its demands regarding our military forces. The alien's posture stiffened. This defiance is unprecedented. No developing species has ever— Perhaps that's the problem, Grant interrupted. Your Council has grown accustomed to dictating terms rather than engaging in true diplomacy. Tyran seemed momentarily taken aback by the interruption. The Council's guidance ensures stability across the galaxy. Your uncontrolled military development threatens that stability. Dr. Thompson, standing off camera, whispered to President Grant. The President nodded slightly before addressing Tyran again. Let's be honest, Counselor. We've observed how the Council operates. Species that maintain strong defenses receive fair treatment. Those who don't become vulnerable to exploitation. We choose not to be exploited. Tyran's translator couldn't quite capture the complex sound he made, but it seemed somewhere between indignation and disbelief. This barrier cannot be maintained indefinitely. Your energy reserves. Dr. Reed stepped into view. The barrier is self-sustaining now that it's established. It requires minimal power to maintain and can persist indefinitely. This was not entirely true. The barrier did require significant energy, but Reed saw no reason to reveal their limitations. Tyran's compound eyes focused on Reed. You're the scientist who discovered how to manipulate quantum boundaries. The Council would be interested in discussing this technology. I'm sure they would, Reed replied evenly. President Grant stepped forward again. High Counselor, our terms are simple. The Council will recognize Earth's sovereign right to maintain defensive forces at levels we deem appropriate. In return, we will continue peaceful relations and technological exchange. Impossible, Tyran declared. Council Resolution 5293 clearly states, We don't recognize the authority of that resolution, Grant cut in. Earth never agreed to restrictions on our defensive capabilities. The alien's voice took on a dangerous edge. This defiance will have consequences. The Council has methods of dealing with problematic species. Admiral Wilson couldn't contain himself. Your ships can't even reach us. What exactly are these consequences? Tyran's gaze shifted to the Admiral. There are 12 spacefaring species in the Council, Admiral. While your barrier may block our conventional approach, isolation has its own costs. No trade, no cultural exchange, no access to the galactic community. So, you're proposing to quarantine us? President Grant asked, seemingly unfazed. Until you return to compliance, yes. Grant smiled slightly. We accept these terms. Earth will develop on its own path for now. Tyrion clearly hadn't expected this response. You would cut yourselves off. From the galaxy? Not at all, Grant replied. We simply won't subject ourselves to unequal relationships. The barrier works one way, Counselor. Our ships can leave the solar system whenever we choose. And believe me, we will be exploring the galaxy, on our terms. The alien's composed demeanor finally cracked. This is unprecedented. No species has ever. Perhaps we're setting a new precedent, Grant suggested. One of true independence and mutual respect. The transmission ended abruptly. Cut off from the Council's side, Admiral Wilson turned to President Grant. They didn't take that. Well, no, she agreed. But they'll have to adapt, just as we've had to adapt to their unexpected ultimatum. Dr. Thompson looked troubled. They'll retaliate somehow. The Council isn't accustomed to being defied. Let them try, General Hayes said confidently. With the barrier in place, what can they really do? Dr. Reed's expression remained grave. They'll find other ways to pressure us. The galaxy is vast, but information travels. They'll attempt to isolate us diplomatically, turn other species against us. President Grant nodded, thoughtfully. Then we'd better make some friends of our own. 1 year later, Captain Lisa Mitchell stood on the bridge of the UES Pathfinder, the first human vessel designed specifically for deep space exploration. The ship hovered at the edge of the quantum barrier, preparing to venture beyond the solar system. Barrier transition in 30 seconds, announced Lieutenant Paul Rodriguez from the navigation console. Lisa checked the final system readouts. The Pathfinder represented humanity's finest engineering, incorporating both Earth technology and adapted Council concepts. Its mission, to make contact with non-Council species and establish independent relationships. Transition complete, Rodriguez reported as the ship passed through the barrier. We're clear of the solar system. Set course for the Epsilon Eridani system, Lisa ordered. Maximum FTL. The Pathfinder accelerated smoothly, slipping into FTL travel. Earth had learned much in the years since establishing the barrier. Dr. Reed's team had refined their understanding of quantum boundaries, improving human FTL drives beyond what the Council had shared. Meanwhile, on Earth, the consequences of defying the Council had begun to manifest. As predicted, they had attempted to isolate humanity diplomatically, warning other species against unauthorized contact. But the barrier held firm, preventing any direct action against Earth itself. The Council's embargo had forced humanity to accelerate their self-sufficiency programs. New mining operations throughout the solar system provided resources previously traded from Council worlds. Manufacturing capabilities expanded rapidly across Earth and its colonies on Mars and the Jovian moons. In Geneva, President Grant met with her advisory council to discuss the latest developments. The Pathfinder has successfully departed the system, Admiral Wilson reported. Captain Mitchell reports all systems functioning at optimal levels. Dr. Thompson provided her update next. Our intelligence networks have detected increased Council activity in nearby systems. They're establishing monitoring stations, presumably to track our ships once they leave the barrier. Can they intercept the Pathfinder? President Grant asked. General Hayes shook his head. Unlikely. We've equipped it with advanced stealth systems specifically designed to evade Council detection. Dr. Reed, who had been uncharacteristically quiet, finally spoke. There's something else you should know. We've detected unusual quantum fluctuations along sections of the barrier. Meaning? The President prompted. The Council is probing it, looking for weaknesses. They haven't found any yet, but their attempts are growing more sophisticated. President Grant considered this information. Can they break through? Not with current methods, Reed assured her. But they're learning. Given enough time and resources, they might eventually find a way. Then we need to accelerate our plans, Grant decided. How many independent spacefaring species have we identified beyond Council territory? Dr. Thompson consulted her datapad. At least 7 confirmed. possibly more. The Council doesn't control the entire galaxy, just the most resource-rich and strategically valuable sectors within our arm of the Milky Way. And these independent species, what do we know about them? Not much, Thompson admitted. The Council restricted our access to information about non-member species, classifying them as primitive or unstable. But our probes have detected advanced civilizations in several systems beyond Council space. Admiral Wilson leaned forward. That's the Pathfinder's primary mission, to make contact and establish relations with these independents. If we can form our own network of allies, the Council's influence over us diminishes further. Grant finished. Excellent. Back aboard the Pathfinder, 3 weeks into its mission, Captain Mitchell recorded in her log. Day 22. We've detected artificial signals from the third planet of Epsilon Eridani. Preliminary analysis suggests a technological civilization approximately equivalent to Earth's early 21st century. No evidence of Council presence in the system. We're approaching cautiously, following first contact protocols. The bridge crew worked with focused intensity as the Pathfinder entered the Epsilon system, maintaining stealth systems at maximum efficiency. "Captain," called the sensor officer, "I'm detecting an unusual energy signature from the fourth planet. It doesn't match any known profile." Lisa studied the readings. "Is it natural or artificial?" "Definitely artificial. And powerful. Whatever it is, it's generating energy comparable to a small star." Before Lisa could respond, Communications Officer Alex Turner announced, "Captain, we're receiving a transmission. It's targeted specifically at us, despite our stealth systems." Lisa's eyes narrowed. "Put it through." The main screen activated, revealing a being unlike any in Council records. It appeared vaguely insectoid, but with obvious signs of cybernetic enhancement. "Greetings, humans of Earth," it said in perfect English. "We've been expecting you." Lisa struggled to maintain her professional composure. "You know who we are?" The being's mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement. "Of course. News travels even beyond the Council's reach. You're the species that erected a quantum barrier around your entire system, are you not? The first to defy the Council in 10,000 years? Lisa nodded slowly. "That's correct. I'm Captain Lisa Mitchell of the United Earthship Pathfinder. I'm Coordinator Vex of the Eridani Collective. We've been monitoring Council communications since your rebellion began. Most interesting." "Then you're not allied with the Council?" Lisa asked cautiously. Vex made a sharp clicking sound. "Certainly not. The Collective rejected Council guidance 8 centuries ago. We've maintained our independence through technological superiority and strategic isolation." Lisa felt a surge of excitement. This was exactly the kind of contact they'd hoped to establish. "Coordinator Vex, my mission is to seek independent species willing to form cooperative relationships outside Council influence." "Yes," Vex responded. "We assumed as much. That is why we revealed ourselves rather than letting you discover us. Gradually. Time is of essence." "What do you mean?" Vex's cybernetic eyes flickered. "The Council is mobilizing, Captain. Your defiance has inspired others. Several developing worlds have begun questioning Council authority. The ruling species are disturbed by this trend." Lisa's excitement turned to concern. "They're planning something." "Indeed. Something unprecedented. The Council has existed for millennia by maintaining the illusion of benevolent guidance. Your barrier exposed their true nature, a hierarchical system designed to keep younger species subordinate. And now? Now they face a choice. Adapt or make an example of humanity. Based on our intelligence, they're choosing the latter." The Pathfinder remained in orbit around Epsilon Eridani IV for 3 days, exchanging information with the Eridani Collective. Captain Mitchell learned that the Collective was just one of several advanced civilizations existing beyond Council space, a loose network of independent species that had either rejected Council authority or evaded their notice. "The galaxy is far larger than the Council acknowledges," Vex explained during their final meeting. "Their territory, while vast, represents only a fraction of inhabited space." Lisa studied the star chart Vex had provided, showing dozens of non-Council civilizations. "Why haven't these species formed their own coalition to counter Council influence?" Divergent interests, Vex replied simply. Some, like us, prefer isolation. Others lack the technological capability for extended space travel. A few have tried to unite, only to discover that cooperation between truly alien species is challenging. But not impossible, Lisa suggested. Vex's cybernetic eyes whirred as they focused on her. What humanity has done, defying the Council while establishing a defensive technology they cannot counter, has created new possibilities. There is now talk among the independents of formal cooperation. That's exactly what we hope to achieve, Lisa admitted. Earth cannot stand alone indefinitely. No, Vex agreed. Especially given what we've learned about the Council's plans. The Collective's intelligence networks had intercepted disturbing communications between Council species. The ruling members, particularly the Arcadians who had founded the Council 30,000 years ago, were developing a new weapon designed specifically to disrupt quantum boundaries. If successful, Vex warned, it would not only neutralize your barrier, but potentially destabilize the quantum structure of your entire solar system. Lisa's blood ran cold. That would threaten billions of lives. The Council would consider it an acceptable cost to maintain galactic order, Vex stated. Your defiance represents an existential threat to their authority. If other species follow your example, their entire system collapses, Lisa finished. Before departing the Eridani system, the Pathfinder received a data package containing specifications for advanced technologies the Collective was willing to share, including improvements to Earth's quantum barrier. Consider this the beginning of an alliance, Vex said as they parted. We will contact other independents. When you return to Earth, you may find more friends than you expected. The Pathfinder continued its mission, visiting 6 more star systems over the next 4 months. In each, they found non-Council species with varying degrees of technology and different reasons for remaining independent. Some had been deemed too aggressive by Council standards. Others possessed unique biological or technological traits the Council found threatening. All were interested in what humanity had accomplished. By the time the Pathfinder returned to the solar system, slipping back through the quantum barrier, 6 months after departure, the political landscape had shifted dramatically. Welcome back, Captain, Admiral Wilson greeted Lisa as she stepped off the shuttle at Lunar Command. Your mission was even more successful than we hoped. Lisa raised an eyebrow. You've been contacted? Wilson smiled. 3 different species have sent representatives. They arrived at the barrier and requested entry, which we granted after careful verification. President Grant is currently hosting what amounts to the first non-Council interstellar summit. In Geneva, Lisa found herself quickly ushered into a historic meeting. Around the table sat President Grant, Earth's top officials, and representatives from 4 alien species: the insectoid Eridani, the gaseous Tenebrians, the crystalline Lithosi, and the aquatic Meroceans. Captain Mitchell, President Grant acknowledged her entrance. Perfect timing. We were just discussing the formation of what we're calling the Independent Systems Alliance. The Tenebrian representative, a swirling mass of luminous gas contained within a specialized environmental suit, spoke next. Your Pathfinder's visits catalyzed what many of us have discussed for centuries. The Council's hegemony has persisted too long, but we've never had a viable alternative, added the Lithosi, whose crystalline body refracted light in dazzling patterns. Individual resistance was futile. Collective resistance required a unifying factor, which humanity has provided, concluded. The Merosian, its tentacles gesturing gracefully from within a water-filled environment suit. Lisa took her seat, overwhelmed by the historic significance of the moment. We've been sharing technology, Dr. Reed explained. The Eridani improvements to our barrier are already being implemented. The Lithosi have provided advanced materials science. The Tenebrians, energy generation systems beyond anything we've developed. And in return, Lisa asked. Our quantum boundary technology, President Grant replied, adapted for their systems. Each member of the Alliance will establish their own barrier, creating protected zones the Council cannot easily penetrate. Admiral Wilson added, we're also sharing military strategy. Most of these species evolved without Earth's history of conflict. They have advanced technology, but limited tactical thinking. And they need it, General Hayes said grimly. Our long-range sensors have detected massive Council fleet movements. They're assembling the largest military force in their history. Lisa shared what she had learned from the Eridani about the Council's quantum weapon development. The news was received with grave concern but not panic. Their weapon is still theoretical, Dr. Reed assured them. And with the combined scientific knowledge of the Alliance, our defenses continue to improve faster than their offensive capabilities. President Grant addressed the alien representatives directly. The Council believes they can isolate and punish humanity for our defiance. They never anticipated that their actions would unite the independent species they've marginalized for millennia. The Eridani representatives' cybernetic eyes gleamed. They drew a line. Together, we will erase it. As the meeting concluded, Lisa found herself standing beside Dr. Reed, watching the historic gathering disperse. When we activated the barrier, Reed mused, I never imagined it would lead to this. Lisa nodded. We thought we were just protecting Earth. Instead, we may have changed the galaxy. The Council's response came 3 months later. A massive fleet, over 300 vessels, from all 12 Council species, appeared at the edge of the solar system. At their center was a ship unlike any seen before, a massive spherical construct nearly the size of Earth's moon. The quantum disruptor, Dr. Reed confirmed, studying the sensor readings in the Geneva Command Center. They've actually built it, President. Grant's expression remained composed, despite the gravity of the situation. Can our improved barrier withstand it? Theoretically, yes, Reed answered. With the Eridani and Lithosi enhancements, the barrier should resist their attempts to collapse. But they wouldn't have committed such resources, unless they believed they could succeed. Admiral Wilson directed the defensive operations from his station. Our fleet is at full alert. All weapon systems are online. The Council didn't immediately attack. Instead, a communication request came through on all frequencies. The main screen activated to show not only High Counselor Tyron, but representatives of all 12 Council species, the full Galactic Council itself. Their appearances varied dramatically, from the vaguely humanoid Arcadians to the gaseous Veltrans and the crystalline Hydraxians. President Grant, Tyran began, this conflict has gone far enough. The Council has unanimously voted to end humanity's rebellion. Grant stood tall, flanked by representatives from the Independent Systems Alliance. This is not a rebellion, High Counselor. This is self-determination, a right the Council claims to respect but actually denies to developing species. Your actions have disrupted the carefully maintained balance of galactic civilization, countered an Arcadian counselor. You've incited other species to defy Council guidance, shared restricted technologies, and formed unauthorized alliances. We've done exactly what sovereign species have the right to do, Grant replied. The only difference is that we refuse to accept your arbitrary limitations. Tyran's compound eyes narrowed. This discussion is academic. You see our fleet. You must recognize the quantum disruptor. The Council has never before developed a weapon of this magnitude. But your defiance has forced our hand. Dr. Reed stepped forward. Your disruptor won't work, Counselor. We've analyzed its theoretical principles and reinforced our barrier accordingly. For the first time, uncertainty flickered across Tyran's features. Impossible. The technology to counter such a device is beyond your development level. Perhaps it was, acknowledged the Eridani representative, moving into view. But humanity is not alone anymore. One by one, the Alliance representatives revealed themselves. The Council members visibly reacted, some with shock, others with outrage. The Eridani Collective, Tyran uttered in disbelief. The Lithosi Confederation, the Tenebrian Clouds. You've allied with these outcasts? We prefer independence, corrected the Morosian representative. And yes, humanity has joined us, or perhaps more accurately, united us. Admiral Wilson had been monitoring fleet movements during the exchange. Madam President, he interrupted urgently, the disruptor is powering up. Grant's eyes hardened. It seems the Council isn't interested in diplomatic solutions after all. On the screen, Tyran appeared to receive similar information. This is your final opportunity, President Grant. Lower your barrier and submit to Council authority, or face the consequences. We will not surrender our sovereignty, Grant stated firmly. And be warned, any attack on Earth will be considered an act of war against all members of the Independent Systems Alliance. The transmission terminated abruptly. Moments later, the quantum disruptor fired. A visible distortion rippled through space as the weapon directed its energy at Earth's barrier. The command center shook slightly as monitoring systems reported massive energy fluctuations throughout the quantum boundary. Barrier integrity? President Grant demanded. Dr. Reed studied the readings intently. Holding at 82%, stabilizing at 79%. The Eridani reinforcements are working. The disruptor isn't powerful enough to collapse the barrier completely. Admiral Wilson's expression remained grim. They'll fire again, and they'll modify the weapon based on what they've learned. We need to take more direct action, General, Hayes urged. We can't simply remain behind our barrier indefinitely. President Grant nodded. Activate Phase 2. Throughout the solar system, concealed installations came online. These were the fruits of the Alliance collaboration. Advanced technological systems that had been quietly constructed over the previous months. Quantum mirror arrays online, reported a technician. Targeting solution acquired, Dr. Reed explained, to the Alliance representatives. Rather than trying to build weapons that could penetrate Council defenses, we've developed a system to redirect their own energy back at them. Outside the barrier, the quantum disruptor prepared to fire again. This time, when its massive energy beam struck the barrier, something unexpected happened. The quantum mirror arrays activated, creating a feedback loop that channeled the disruptor's own energy back through the quantum boundaries. The massive Council weapon shuddered visibly as its own power was reflected back upon it. Secondary explosions cascaded across its surface as overload warnings surely blared throughout the vessel. Their disruptor is critically damaged, Admiral Wilson reported with satisfaction. They're attempting emergency shutdown procedures. The Council fleet fell into disarray. Some vessels moved to protect the damaged disruptor while others maintained their position near the barrier. They'll regroup, General Hayes warned. This isn't over. President Grant turned to the Alliance representatives. It's time for Phase 3. The Alliance members nodded in unison. Each activated a secure communication device, sending encoded signals to their home systems. Throughout the galaxy, far beyond the solar system, quantum barriers similar to Earth's began activating. Around dozens of star systems. One by one, the independent worlds of the Alliance removed themselves from the Council's reach. In the Geneva Command Center, a strategic display showed these activations as points of light blinking into protected status. 23 star systems, now protected by quantum barriers, reported Dr. Thompson. The Alliance defensive network is online. On the main screen, another transmission from the Council appeared. High Counselor Tyron looked shaken, his usual composure completely gone. What have you done? He demanded. President Grant allowed herself a small smile. We've changed the rules, Counselor. The line you drew, the one separating advanced Council species from developing worlds, has been erased. The Independent Systems Alliance is now a reality, with all members protected by the same technology that shields Earth. This is unprecedented, Tyron sputtered. The Council has maintained galactic order for 30,000 years. Perhaps, Grant suggested, it's time for a new order, one based on genuine cooperation rather than hierarchical control. The Alliance representatives stood united behind her, a visual representation of this new galactic reality. The Council will not accept this, Tyron warned, though his tone lacked conviction. The Council has no choice, the Eridani representative countered. Your most powerful weapon has failed. Your military cannot reach any Alliance world. Your economic sanctions are meaningless when we can trade freely among ourselves.